Hello, my name is Josh Urban Davis from Dartmouth, and on behalf of my co-author Johann Wentzel, thank you for joining me in this virtual room to talk about font to your friends and loved ones in defense of ugly interfaces, where we will try to answer a very important question. Can we use machine learning to make fonts from human faces? And oh God, why on earth would you do such a thing? So to answer this question, let's begin by discussing a bit of UI design history. The invention of GUIs heavily relied on metaphoric mappings between physical objects and abstract computational tools. Icons on a desktop such as a trash can were represented by an icon of a trash can because the metaphor of trash was easily communicated, the function of removing files and unwanted tools from a system. However, metaphors have largely been abandoned in contemporary UI design in favor of flat or non-metaphoric design choices. Simply put, UIs that are clean and minimal are seen as preferable and beautiful versus others which are seen as complicated and ugly. This signifies a cultural aesthetic shift, and like any aesthetic movement, can be analyzed for underlying cultural values. The concept of ugliness can be thought of as a historical fascination with the imperfect. Exploring cultural artifacts which are deemed ugly can reveal qualities that a given society deems physically and morally undesirable. Therefore, what a society deems ugly serves as a reflection of this society's perception of the universe's imperfections. We thus can parse a given definition of ugliness within UI for values deemed undesirable. Therefore, one way we can conceptualize the trend of removing metaphors of the physical world in UI design is a classification of the physical world itself as imperfect and ugly. In other words, the hegemony of clean user interfaces flattens and removes the imperfect, the physical, and indeed even the human from our computational systems. This aesthetic movement is not unique to our user interfaces alone, but reflects a wider trend in the techno-determinism elimination of the imperfect and human from our culture. We therefore present typeFACE, a system for creating fonts from human faces as a radical gesture of injecting the human back into the machine. typeFACE follows in the footsteps of recent interests in generative art and design, which uses algorithmic methods to create cultural objects. Unlike most algorithmic methods, generative art and design are embraced for their unpredictability and imperfection as opposed to their utility. This has led Lev Menovich to suggest that the new media art movement and the algorithmic art movement as a whole could be read as a response to emerging technology, providing radical alternatives to how interface technologies could be designed. typeFACE uses a generative adversarial network, or GAN, that takes pictures of a person's face and a collection of letters from different fonts as inputs, and synthesizes a novel typeface composed of the person's face. Since I only have 5 minutes in this particular talk, I won't be describing in any granular detail how this system works, but I encourage you, if you're interested, to look at our paper. A main source of inspiration for typeFACE's aesthetic is the idea of something being blursed. To be blursed is to appear both visually pleasing or funny, or blessed, while at the same time being somewhat gross or unappealing, cursed. The most common phrase associated with blursed media is "thanks, I hate it." And this aesthetic is nothing new. It's a concept that grows out of Freud's idea of the uncanny, which describes a situational or contextual horror. Therefore, part of the reason why reading a paper rendered in a face or a text designed in a font made from faces, the reason this is uncomfortable is because it contextually reintroduces the human presence back into a user interface, meaning text, which has already eliminated the human presence from its interface. Of course, we have rendered our entire paper in typeFACE, which you can download and try for yourself at gofontyourself.xyz if you'd like to try our font out for yourself, or see the entirety of our paper rendered in a flesh font. So to summarize, yes, you can make a machine which creates letters from human faces. Ugliness is a cultural obsession with imperfection that varies from society to society. Flat UI design can be interpreted as a symbolic removal of the physical world or human from UI aesthetics. Generative art and design presents an opportunity to embrace unpredictability and imperfection, i.e. the human aesthetic qualities. And typeFACE evokes the uncanny by reintroducing the human into an interface where the human presence has largely been removed. Again, if you'd like to try out our font for yourself, please visit gofontyourself.xyz, where we also have prints of our paper, both in traditional text and also in typeFACE flesh font. Once again, this has been Font to Your Friends and Loved Ones in Defense of Ugly Interfaces. I'm Josh Urban Davis. I'd like to thank my co-author, Johann Wentzel, as well as Justin Mataika for their support on this project. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either of us via Twitter or email. Thank you, and long live the Newsflash.